is Patsy with a Z, and I am back with my next guest. I am so really thrilled to have her in the studio with me today. Her name is Linda S. Plunkett. She's a PhD, and she's written a book called Supernatural Rescue, From Broken to Beautiful, and she is beautiful. And I know that because it was an amazing story about how I discovered her. I find authors in a lot of ways. Of course, most of my authors come from the big publishing houses in New York City, and they send me all these wonderful books. But I also like to go around and go to writers' events, and I meet local authors and a lot of indie authors. And of course, I get quite a few people now from Facebook, and I appreciate that. And when you are on Facebook, go to my Facebook page. It's Radio Joy on paper, and messenger me, and I've now gotten quite a few authors that way, and I enjoy hearing from you. But this is the first time I got an author while in the cosmetic section at Walgreens. So I am so happy to have you here, Linda.
Thank you so much.
Wasn't that funny?
That was funny. And I was trying to figure out, why is this lady standing behind me while I'm playing my video?
Well, it was funny. There I was in one aisle, and I heard Linda tell the girl behind the cosmetic counter, I wrote a book. And that's all I need to hear. So I peek around, and there she is. She's showing a video to the young woman there at the cosmetic counter. And I had to sneak up and have a peek at it. It was the most amazing video of Linda dancing, like Dancing to the Stars. I mean, beautiful. All
Thank
choreographed
you.
and
Thank you
looking so gorgeous, like a movie star.
Thank you.
It was beautiful. And I said, whoa, I have to find out more about this person. So there we were. We were both in the cosmetic section, and we were not dressed up. we were like just running. But it was so funny to meet you that way.
That was amazing.
And that's what I said. It was meant to be.
It was.
It was, because otherwise I might never have heard of you.
Well, things happen for a reason.
Exactly.
I really believe that.
Exactly. And so you have to tell us about your amazing story. The name of the book is Supernatural Rescue. You just have to start at the beginning and tell us what happened to you.
At the end of 2012, I had a very surreal experience, because at that point, I was a really healthy 59-year-old woman. I played golf. I ran a counseling practice. I traveled. I did all the normal things a 59-year-old would do, but I had no health problems. I had no high blood pressure. I had no high cholesterol. I really felt like I was in perfect. And then one day I came home from lunch, and I had lunch with a friend and my son, and they were looking at my husband saying, there's something wrong with Mom. And I'm looking at them, what do you mean there's something wrong? There's something wrong. She's not like herself. There's just something happening with her that isn't correct. So anyway, I went to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, it's probably nothing, but we should do a scan. And so after the brain scan, I get a phone call. And I'm shocked to hear on the other side of the other side of the line a voice telling me, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have a brain tumor, and it's the size of a tennis ball in your frontal lobe. So I went back, for further testing, for further discussion with a surgeon, met with several surgeons, and they said, you cannot hold off on this surgery. I was having mental lapses, and that's what was so different about me. I wasn't myself. I was behaving in a different way. I was speaking in a different way. And they called these a type of a seizure. And although it wasn't cancerous, thank God, a seizure can just as well kill you. So I had to have surgery like in the very near future. So this was probably, I would say, November. And by the middle of December, I was in the operating room.
For a major surgery?
A major surgery where they cut my head from ear to ear because of the size of the tumor. The surgery was supposed to be 3 to 4 hours and turned out to be nearly 8 because there were complications.
Wow, this is a big change in your life.
Well, from going from being healthy, I have no problems, to I have a major brain surgery, and then waking up and feeling like a vegetable. And people say, what does it feel to be like a vegetable? Well, first of all, it was very strange because I couldn't think well, I couldn't speak well, and I felt like God had left me, although we know in reality he had not. But the feeling was I was totally empty and alone, and I didn't know what to do.
And you went from that to how many years later, and you're doing a Dancing to the Stars?
It's amazing. It's a miracle. It truly is a miracle. And I wrote the book. I wasn't really completely well when I wrote the book, but I feel with the strength of God, I was able to get the book published, and that was a small miracle. I would say about a year ago, I had an experience where I got some stem cells and it literally cured my fibromyalgia. I still was having sleep problems. And when you have fibromyalgia, it can be to a various degree, but in my situation, I couldn't sleep. And the sleep caused me more memory problems. I couldn't focus well. And so my mind was still affected. And, miraculously, I wrote the book, but about a year ago, I felt finally healed from the fibromyalgia. And so now I can say I'm 100%. And I guess the doors just opened through my dance instructor and really a professional choreographer for me to do this dance performance, which I never dreamed would happen in my lifetime.
It is so amazing. And when I saw the video, I said, wow, when you see it, you can't believe that there was ever anything wrong with her, and certainly not a brain tumor, because there was quite a recovery process.
It was a long recovery process. In the beginning, I couldn't walk. I had trouble forming my words. I'd say it took me about 3 months to learn how to walk, but my brain was really messed up, and I went to a major medical institution and said, can't you do some tests, test me, help me, find a way to help me. And after the test, they said, there's nothing we can do for you. And I was at a point, I can't live like this. I have to find a way to get better. And with the help of God, I found ways to get better. And I'm hoping my next book will also, some of those ideas will be passed on. People have asked me to write the book. Other people have said, we need the book. We feel as we're getting older, we've had changes in our brain, and we need to know how to make our brain sharper. So my next book will include some of those ideas.
You started recovering from your surgery. You were taking notes, even though at that point you were writing, but you really could almost. I mean, your mind was working enough that you were writing words.
I was trying to, and this was a suggestion from my home health care nurse. I came home from the hospital and I was such a mess. And I put my hands to my face and cried. And I said, I don't know how to do this. And he recommended starting to write a journal. Well, in the beginning, my brain was so poor, I could not even read what I wrote. But as time went on, the notes began to make sense and eventually formed the beginnings to the book.
Then it was a process of over.
Exactly. And people say, oh, you can't get a publisher. Well, that's not necessarily true. With God, all things are possible. I went to a book writers conference, and honestly, I had only written a few chapters to the book, and so I submitted a book proposal, and the publisher started pursuing me, and he said, I think you really have something that needs to be presented and shared. But I had only written a few chapters when the book was basically accepted by the publisher. So then I had to get busy, and I had to finish the book. There was some pressure there.
Exactly. Once you're in that position, but it's a nice position to be in, and it is. You need that sometimes, that encouragement to really.
That's very true. To light a fire to get going.
Exactly. And as I mentioned to you, it's a very easy to read book. I think it's very compelling. You've had it edited professionally, which is important, because I always tell all new writers, even the most seasoned. I was just talking to Margaret George, and she went through like a 6-month editing process. So even the most famous and the greatest writers go through an editing process with professional editors. It really makes a difference. And as I was reading your book, I realized, I said, she's had some good editing here. And that's important.
And I did, and I actually had 2 editors, because I hired an editor before it went to the publisher, but then the publisher also, they went through an edit. So that was very interesting. Got a lot of varying feedback.
But it's a process.
Yes, definitely.
Tell us, because I was so intrigued. Now, where can people see the video that I saw? They can see it on your Facebook page?
They can go to my Facebook page, Linda Plunkett. And I'm in the process of trying to get it on my book page, but I haven't quite gotten it there. I'm a little bit technically challenged, which is nothing new. Okay. But I'm hoping to overcome that. It will soon be on Supernatural Rescue page. However, right now, if you go to Linda Plunkett, very close to the top of my postings, you should see that video.
Okay, and so you have a website called Facebook Supernatural?
Yeah, it's a Facebook page, and I'm in the process of working on a website right now.
Okay, Supernatural Rescue.
Yes.
I think anyone who will go to that and just look at that video, and you'll say, wow, if she could do that in 5 years, go from major brain surgery, and she looks like she's on Dancing to the Stars, that was fun, huh?
It was amazing. It was amazing. And it's one of those things. I had a new dance instructor, and he said he wanted to do this after reading the book. And I thought, oh, that's so nice. But, a lot of times people say nice things that doesn't really happen. Well, before I know it, I'm speaking with a professional choreographer. And the next thing I know, I have backup dancers. I'm thinking, wow, this is really happening. And it was so surreal because I had like 5, 6 people behind me backing me up, including my instructor. And yet I was the only non-professional. So it was a little bit intimidating, but we had a lot of practice, and people tell me it looks well. So I'm grateful.
It looks great. It looks great.
You.
And you look beautiful. And something like that is inspirational because people go through so many things. You have illnesses, you have pains, you have all sorts of things, but then to look forward to doing something, and to look forward to writing a book, and to look forward to doing something that you were dreaming about.
This is very true. I went through years of feeling so bad, and people probably shouldn't feel this way, but I did feel like in a way I was being punished. What did I do wrong? I've always been healthy, and why this? And many of those whys can never be answered, but I'm happy to say things did work out for the good, and good things have come out of that, and out of the pain. God has enabled me to share with other people the joy of living, and how with faith and with hope sometimes things can change in your situation.
One of the things that I noticed, of course, the dedication is to your father.
Yes.
So tell us about your father.
Well, my father was basically very poor. He grew up in West Virginia. He was in World War II for 5 years. And he basically hitchhiked to Ohio to start a business. And his business became larger and larger. My parents grew business together till, it was amazing. He eventually had 5 grocery stores. They built a golf course. And my mother had a cafeteria. But both of them were just very hardworking. They were poor people initially, but with hard work and dedication and really believing the customer is always right and treating people the right way, they were very successful in life. And my father, with the help of my niece, wrote a book, and maybe that was sort of an inspiration for me. When he was very, very old and I was still very, very sick, I went to spend time with him in Ohio. My parents lived in a small town called Worcester, Ohio, which is near the Amish country.
Amish, yeah.
Yes, and so that's where I grew up, in a small town. And of course, it's very different from living in Florida. But yeah, I'm glad I had those roots. My parents were very hardworking people. They had a very strong work ethic. They believed in the golden rule, really treating people the way you want to be treated. And so I was raised with that, and I'm very grateful for that background.
Well, what is the name of your father's book? You brought it with you, and I always like to promote books. And now, your father was 100 years old?
And he died a couple years ago, but his book is called My Experiences in War and Business, One Man's Story of Success.
Otis Earl Hawkins, and with a foreword by Dan Quayle. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Now I have to read this one. This is my thing. Whenever I come across somebody who has written a book, and I love books from people from the World War II generation.
Yes, and it's very true. It's a true rags to riches story. And my parents weren't super rich like a lot of people, but coming from poverty and growing up in a home where my father had to quit high school basically to support the family, he came a long way through hard work and dedication and treating people the way he wanted to be treated.
Well, really, so many of the World War II generation, that's what they did.
Exactly.
Or they got 8th grade educations, but they fought the war.
Right.
They did so much for us, and then they came home from the war, and they just worked hard.
He did. He was a very hard worker. And I worked in the business from the time that I was 9 years of age. And when I talk about laughing about dance, I laugh about it because I wasn't one of those little girls that could have dance lessons. Because when I was 9 years old, I was working in the business, and I worked throughout my childhood through my teen years. But now I get to dance. What maybe I missed when I was a little girl, I'm dancing now, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Well, I think that, that's one of the wonderful things. Life can be such a joy if you look for it. And
yes.
I was so taken with you when I saw you in the store. There you are in the store talking to the woman behind the cosmetic counter. Most people don't even talk to anybody in the store. They don't pull out their phones and start showing this video. And I could see she was delighted that you were doing that.
Well, I want to share with people because I did go through such a dark, dark time, but I want to give other people hope. And, being a counselor for 15, 20 years, I gave people hope. But now I want to do it in a different way. I want to do it through speaking and writing and sharing with people how your life can turn around, even if you're going through something difficult. And honestly, when you talk to people, most people are going through something difficult. It could be spiritual, it could be mental, it could be physical, or they have someone close to them. And we all need hope. I really believe that.
It's something you can share. It's like the name of this program is Joy on Paper, because it is such a joy to write. You feel, you have such a feeling of pride when you see your words on paper. And then to know that somebody is going to read them, it is just absolutely amazing. And you never know, in your case, you've written a very inspirational book, and you never know when somebody will pick it up just at the right time in their life.
And that's so true. And I've had a couple people say, Linda, I sat down and I read it from cover to cover, or I read it 3 times. And, that makes everything that I went through, all the difficult years, worthwhile, knowing it's helping someone. It's encouraging someone, because that was the purpose of the book.
I tell all authors, you have to promote yourself, and you have to get out there and talk to people. So many authors have a very difficult time with that, because they love to write, but they're alone. They're in their little world writing. Even the ones who are published by the big publishing houses, they have to get out there and promote themselves. So wherever you are, you might be in Walgreens and you talk to people. You might be in Panera's, or wherever you are, you should be talking to people, because you never know who is going to hear you and who is going to, who you will be able to help by telling them about your book. And I think that's fantastic.
That's so true, and I appreciate that encouragement, because I am outgoing, but every now and then, you really question how much and who would be interested, but I look for a little bit of interest, and if there's a little interest, then I go from there.
And because you're doing them a service too, by bringing to them something that could change their lives.
I hope so. I really do.
Because even if it's not your particular book, the idea that you were able to write a book with everything you went through, a lot of people will say, well, she went through that. If she wrote a book, I can do that.
That's true. And there's so much negativity out there in the book world. Oh, you can't do this. You can't do a book. You can't get it published. All the reasons why you shouldn't, when I'm here to say you can, and it's possible.
I have been, working on some historical works, and it is one of the joys for me is to find all of the books that people wrote in the olden days, books that you think they weren't famous, they never sold 1 million books, but boy, oh boy, it's so wonderful to have those books and to be able to draw upon them and the wisdom of the time, because when somebody writes a book and they put down the things that they've learned, the things that they've experienced, it's so important to preserve them.
No, I agree, and I was a counselor for between 15 and 20 years. I have so many materials that now I'm really excited about sharing more of those in my next book, because I feel like, okay, I've closed my practice, but there's still people that need that. There's people that need the encouragement. They're going, we're a body, a soul, and a spirit. And, that soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. In that area, we need the encouragement. We need the help. We need help along the way. And we don't need to feel we're alone. We need to feel that there's sources to get information that can help us.
And I think that you've done a terrific job with your book, which is Supernatural Rescue. And now I'm holding this book in my hand, My Experiences in War and Business, One Man's Story of Success in America, Otis Earl Hawkins. I'm going to have to read that book too next, because I need to know about it.
Well, thank you. And my father was a true World War hero and a success in business with very little education. And my parents were very hardworking, and I'm very grateful to them. And although at times I think about, I didn't have the childhood maybe someone else had, they taught me so much.
We had wonderful childhood. I worked all my childhood, and that was the best time of my life. I love it. I'm so happy that I did the same thing. I was working from the time I was a little kid.
You learn a lot about life at a young age, and it helps you grow up. It really does.
It really does. So the book is Supernatural Rescue, and it's by Linda Plunkett, and you can go to Amazon and get the Kindle version. It's really a book that you'll stop and you'll say, whoa, Yeah, that's good. I'm glad I know this woman. I want to know this woman, and you go to her Facebook page and watch the video of her dancing. I think you're an inspiration.
Well, thank you so much. And I wanted to let people know if for any reason they want the hard copy to contact me personally, and I'll make sure that they get one.
Okay, and we're going to see Linda at some of the book signing events around town. We're going to organize some stuff for her because she really needs to get out there and inspire people.
Thank you so much, Patsy.
You're delightful and just so beautiful, and it's just wonderful what you've done with this book.
Well, and I thank God. Without God, I would not be here. And sometimes I think about that. You know, I probably shouldn't be here, but there was a reason for me to live and to make it.
That's it.
And hopefully I can reach out and help others in this process.
Again, thank you so much for coming in today.
Patsy.
Okay. Well, it's been fun to have you in the studio today.
Thank you. I've enjoyed being with you.
Okay, and we'll have you back. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.